All right, good evening, everybody. The February 25th, 2025 Hibbing Public Utilities Commission meeting is called to order. All commissioners are present. Next item will be adds or deletes.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, I'd like to remove 7A3 from the agenda, and I can talk about that why in 7A1 and 2. And then also remove item 6H as well.
6H and 7A.
Correct. 7A3. 7A.II.
Okay.
I.
Commissioner Sandsted?
Thank you. I would like to have two ads. I would like to have a conversation for commissioners to be placed on the committees at the PUC as one request. And then my other request is an opportunity to talk about requests for contributions, and I'd like to have that conversation before we go into our consent agenda. If possible.
Okay, so we'll add, excuse me, we'll add that discussion on commissioners being on committees. We'll add that as 7E. And the next item, the approval of contributions, we will add right after citizens forum, which we have. Not? Okay. Next item will be approval of the minutes of the last meeting. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Sandsted to approve the minutes of the January 7th and January 21st, 2025 commission meetings. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on to discussion regarding contributions to nonprofits and et cetera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason I'm bringing this up is because periodically throughout the course of the year, there are contributions that come into the utility for contributions from a fund that we have if we have earnings over a certain amount, if I understand that correct. And I just don't understand the process, the application process, the determination process, how these funds are dispersed once it happens. I know that in December, there was a list of 8 items in a packet. 7 were on one cover page, the 8th one was not. I thought in that meeting, we made a motion to approve them all. And my understanding so far is that only of that 8, 3 have been paid, potentially up to date. But if the commission is approving them, then I need to understand, like, why aren't they being paid if they are actually approved? And if there's a reason, we need to understand that. But then also, there's just a lot of confusion for me in terms of the documents that I see in the packet on the request amounts and then different amounts being placed in our packets. In the application, I should say a certain amount requested, a different amount given. So I would like to know, how are these contribution requests being handled? Who do they go to? Is there a committee? How is it determined? Who is making the determination? So I'm all ears.
So I hear you. In the history that I've been on the commission, about 6 years, the contributions are, you fill out the form and you can ask for up to $500. Somewhere along the line in the last 12 months, that's changed. I don't know how, I don't care, but I mean, obviously we're looking at a higher one now. I don't agree with it. Even though I support, this particular item, I don't think it's right. So I think it's time to move to the maximum of the $500 contribution. for all in the future. But that's my opinion, so.
Mr. Chair, I even have questions like the process. How do you find the form? Who do you talk to for the form? Is the form online? What is that process even? I mean, so, and I know I'm the new person on on this commission. Maybe other people understand that, but I've asked for clarity on it, and it's still not very clear.
Like to weigh in, Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hart, and again, Commissioner Sandsted, thanks for bringing this up. And I mean, I can also say too that what's most typical is the $500 maximum contributions, the form that comes in. I'm not sure exactly where the form is advertised. Is it after somebody calls you, Elliot, that you share the form, or is it on the website? So we have a process that isn't, you know, I guess super transparent. We, like you, Chair Hart, mentioned, we've kind of just been doing what's always been done. We think it's very important to support these, you know, personally, I think it's great to support all the organizations that come through our door, and knowing that our full business is to run a utility and save money for the ratepayers. So we've been pretty much doing the same process for the most time. Our statute allows us to do up to like $20,000 per year. Andy, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so, and that's in the state statute that governs the public utilities, and so that's been the process and the forms that we've been relying on throughout all that. And in the last couple of years, toward the year end, we've given some larger donations to max out that $20,000 amount. And that was done kind of a conversation with me and Elliot, and just kind of looking at the way the commission is working. We haven't deployed a committee structure or anything like that, and realizing that there's times to, you know, support an organization, times not, you know, and I think as we're all trying to get packets out the door, I think Elliot does an excellent job, especially with the last minute changes, and I am always the one who's to blame for bringing last minute changes into the process. So, you know, I'll take full responsibility for that. But when we do that, and I think there was a conversation in December, the letter that made it into the packet wasn't the same one that we intended to go into the packet, and there was some confusion after the votes were made. And so I think that's kind of where the current December situation stands. What would probably be most appropriate is to bring back the intended December amount and have the commission vote on it to process it. If the commission's wants to review it, and then, you know, just I'm comfortable if the commission is of me emailing you all and asking you have any questions, and if you're all comfortable without taking formal action, I can execute those payments just to make sure we're not leaving thing hanging any longer than we necessary. Or we could just do a timeout and regroup as a committee, set some guidelines and policies, and do it that way. So it's up to the commission.
So I think as a commission, for sure, in December, we took action and we approved, and those organizations are counting on dollars. And there's at least 3 of them I know that have received funds. So there's been some kind of movement, and I'm glad that's happened. Mm-hmm. For the others that were in that packet and approved, I think those should be honored. There is one in the December packet that wasn't on the list. It exceeds the budget dollar amount that you have on the cover letter in the packet. So I don't know on that particular item, even though it was in the packet, but not on the cover letter.
Right.
Was it actually approved or not? I saw it again in the January packet, and then the January items were all tabled because we were going to take it up at a working session that didn't get taken up. So I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in. I don't know where that item sits.
I don't know either.
So if I could mention, Commissioners, I think the appropriate response is to email y'all about what was intended to be in that December packet, and, you know, on the amount, because I think when it went, Commissioner Babich gets asked to sign stuff as our acting commission secretary, and he duly noted the discrepancy between what was on the table in the packet versus what we intended to pay. And so I think what's best is I can email y'all just what was supposed to be in there, and if you have any questions that was not of what you voted, let me know right away. And if we have any issues, we'll bring it back up before the whole commission. If you're all on board, I'll proceed to execute if you're comfortable with that. If not, we can always talk about it.
Is this, because there's particulars from before and it was an open packet, is this anything, Andy, that can go into like just a quick closed session that we can follow up after, or how does that work?
I would say no.
Okay.
It's not an appropriate thing for a closed session. So if you're in agreement with what the general manager has suggested tonight to get some clarification for you, then you'd ratify it at a next meeting, whether there's some sort of understanding with the general manager. Yeah, we've approved these ones because they were voted on. But if you want to make the record clear at your next action meeting, or even at your next council meeting, then ratify what you wanted to approve, but get the checks out the door faster.
Right.
Then I think there's going to be a question, and I'm totally fine with that, but I just want to say I think there's going to be a question. We're going to have to go back and listen to that meeting and then see how it was approved, because if it was just approved as the consent agenda and all the items in the packet, specific organizations were not listed by name, or if they were, then that gives us clarification on the one that, wasn't. I don't know. I don't remember how you ran it, if you listed every one of them by name or not, or if you just said these, there's a packet full of items and this is what we're voting on.
And if I could, Commissioner, if I recall the December meeting, there wasn't any discussion on it. It was all consent off the top of my head.
That was my recollection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of me clarifying what was intended to be in that consent item, and then allowing you guys to ask questions, and then bringing it up in the next meeting if we need to.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, do you, at that time, do you want to set amount, or do you want to set that amount here tonight for moving forward after March 1st? I'm in agreement with you with the $500 limit, so
Yeah, I don't know that,
do you
I
want
don't know
to
if it
take
needs,
that?
could be discussed at a working session. I'm not sure if that's necessary or not. Put you on the spot. How do you feel about that?
I feel like we should look at it in two different lights. Are we giving a donation, or are we paying for a sponsorship? Like if we're gonna put a billboard up at the raceway, to me that's different than donating $500. So I feel like there should be some discussion on that, because, we probably, want to have signs in some places that might be over 500.
Okay. Mr. Bayless?
I like that idea.
Agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I'm in agreement, but I'm just worried about applications coming in from tonight, moving forward. So,
No, I agree.
but I do believe a sponsorship is different than a donation, so.
Yeah, I feel a sponsorship would be more, in the past, in other organizations, we have reached out to that organization to be a sponsor versus, getting letters saying, will you please be our sponsor?
Yeah.
I think there's, in addition to a dollar amount that we should be discussing a defined process on how these are going to be handled. So I'm in favor of a working session conversation.
Okay.
Take it up at the next one and have a decision before the next regular meeting, because that's the next time we'll approve any of them anyways, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just mention our next working session is March 11th, and we will also have the city council at that working session, so we can
Sounds good.
take this up.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, the next, so we'll move on to the consent agenda, items 5A. So with that being said, I want to pull item 5H.
5H, did you say?
5H.
Thank you.
Consent agenda item 5A, approve invoices greater than 10,000, approve the bills and ACH transfers dated January 15th to January 19th. Item 5B, approve the payroll paid and overtime report for the January 23rd and February 6th and February 20th pay dates. Item 5C, approve letter of understanding 2025-03 mutual aid. Item 5D, approve overnight travel and expenses through April 2025. Item 5E, request for contribution, Hibbing High School Student Council in the amount of $400. Item 5F, request for contribution, Hibbing Curling Club Junior Curling in the amount of $500. Item 5G, request for contribution, Angel Fund in the amount of $500. Item 5I, approve commissioners to attend the 30-inch water main rehabilitation groundbreaking on February 28th at 11:30 a.m. What would be the wish of the commission?
Mr. Chair, I'd actually like to pull or just discuss item 5E quickly, but I would make a motion to approve the rest.
Okay, support.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Stokes to approve items 5A, B, C, D, F, G, and I.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
I do have some questions on the financials,
Okay.
if that's okay?
Yep.
Okay. This is just for my, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, you're talking about the invoice register?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Good? Okay. Just a couple of things, just, this is for my understanding. On page 21, there's a refund overpayment. This is, I'm assuming, to a ratepayer for maybe like overage in water usage, or right up at the top.
Calvin Johnson?
Yes.
Yes?
Okay. Further down, miners insurance. This isn't the premium cost, is it?
This is the commission.
Okay. And that was not, this is a separate item from the premium.
That's correct.
Why are they not paid at the same time?
They are. Well, they're, so our insurance agent and I had a conversation a couple years ago where I didn't want to just have the commission hidden in the insurance premium, which is typically how it's done, is that you write the insurance premium payment to that insurance, to the agent, and then that agent takes, adds his or her commission on that, and so that's the invoice we see. We have a really good working relationship with miners, and because of that, we've agreed to just pay our insurance providers, FM Global in this case, directly, which I think is the more responsible way to do it. So we're not cutting a check to a middleman and then paying the commission separately. And so Mr. Linseth did kind of change his normal process for our benefit so we could be more transparent about his commissions.
Yeah.
Because of that, every year we have this opportunity to negotiate about what's the right amount of commission that we should be paying. And so this is the amount that we have paid this year. It is the same as what we paid last year as well.
I don't have a, thank you very much. I don't have a problem on the dollar amount. I know that I was just surprised because I'm like, there's no way that's the cost of the premium.
That's correct.
Far exceeds that amount. So
That's
this
right.
is an on commission, and that's how it
Correct.
came through. Okay. Page 23. Stinson legal fees, $69.97. $69.97.50.
Yes.
That's outside of the turbine. That is issues
Correct,
not
yeah.
related to turbine issues.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's just for that month.
That's correct.
Same page, Fairview Health Services for $292. DNA policy testing statement.
Yes.
I haven't seen that in the packet before.
Remember last month we had a conversation about the invoice register in the packets, and the filter that is put on the invoice register before it is paid, or before it is printed for the commission packets. It's supposed to be ACH and bills greater than $10,000 or something like that. Well, this one showed everything, so there was no filter put on it this month. So right now you're seeing everything, not just the ACH and bills greater than $10,000. So.
Okay. So the next two I was going to ask about was right underneath that, those were two contributions, and those have been paid. So I know that some of them have been paid, which is good. Right at the bottom, MMUA, It's an invoice date of September. I guess I'm wondering why so late?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do not know why that was so late. The TNO conference was in December, and we can look into that. Typically, you know, our AP department does a really good job of doing things timely. So sometimes, and so I'll look into that.
Yeah, there's a couple in the packet with dates that go back further than I would have expected, so
Sure.
I'm surprised on that one. Page 24, there's a visa for Chris Adams, and it just says visa, and no description of like car parts or what it was. And in other areas like that, we have a
Yeah.
kind of a breakdown or a description of
Sure.
what it was used. Do you know what that was?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I have a couple guesses, but I don't want to guess in front of everybody, so let me research that
Look
and get
into it.
back to you.
Okay, thank you. Page 29. Jumbo Properties for 400. Who is that?
Jambo, I believe
Sorry,
is how it's
Jambo.
pronounced.
I stand corrected.
And that is Nick Bugalis's company for, if I'm not mistaken, that is for ash pile rental in North Hibbing. So we load out ash because that wood ash sometimes is too hot to put directly on farmers' fields, or we don't have a farmer lined up for a delivery that day. We have an ash pile at Nick Bugalis's land in North Hibbing.
So we rent property to put hot ash on. Got it. And then finally, page 30. Towards the bottom, there's a couple of core landscaping, LEA yard semi. What is the yard semi? Are we,
That is a good question. Let me go look.
one amount is 644 and the other one is 859.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, there's actually 3 or 4 of them in there,
Yeah.
or 3 of them. I don't, there's all for the Leah yard that I'm not understanding what,
What is that?
that was one of my questions also. What are we
Yeah.
doing out
I'll
there?
research and get back to you.
Thank you.
Snow plowing?
It's probably something like that.
Kind of figured.
I just didn't understand the
Yeah.
semi and, okay, those are my questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We'll move on to Commissioner Bayless. Item 5E, Mr. Bayless.
Yeah, I was just curious, thank you, Chair. I looked at the request on that one, and I think they requested like 200 to 1,500 on there. I'm curious how we landed on 400, or is that a typo, and it's supposed to be 5?
Can I put you on the spot, Mr. Dixon?
I just assumed you meant 5 if that was the request, is what I'm saying, so.
Chair Hart, Commissioners, the $400 level was selected for the silver level sponsorship of the event.
Okay.
That just happened to be the number that was outlined in the contribution that they had sent in.
Okay,
Or
so
the
they had
request
another
form they
level that
sent
was
in.
higher than our limit that,
What was that?
did they have like another level that was higher than our 500?
There was, yes.
Okay.
The next level was above 500.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, Elliot, is that the same thing that happened to the youth curling club then? Because I see their request was for 1,000 and they only had, we approved 500.
500, yes.
Okay.
So on that request for contribution form, it outlines that our regular request limit throughout the year is at 500. It's the end of year charitable contributions that we've considered going above that number before. But typically through January through November, we've had about a $500 limit for requests.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Elliot.
Elliot.
Yeah, you good?
Motion to approve.
Yes.
I'll support. Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Chair Hart to approve item 5E, contribution to the Hibbing High School Council in the amount of $400. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, financials and risk management, item 6A, approve the January 2025 interim financials. Mr. Peterson?
Excuse me, Chair. Did you actually vote then on the other consent agenda items?
Oh, I thought we
I don't think we did.
We did not.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Sandsted had her questions with regard to that section, so you hadn't voted on that yet.
I threw you, I'm sorry.
We did have a
Who was the
motion.
motion in a second?
You did have a motion in a second. Commissioner Bayless made the motion. I think Commissioner Sandsted may have, or Stokes seconded. Yeah. We hadn't voted on that.
So we'll have a vote on that right now then.
Very good.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on those items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Chair, I did have one question, just on your item H that you pulled, were you just pulling it, you didn't want to discuss it at all?
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, next will be financial and risk management, item 6A, approved January 2025 interim financials. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, we summarized the January financials in the packet here for you, and I can just run over it briefly. And I believe we have Russ Hissam as well from Baker Tilly. Hello, Russ. How are you today?
Good, good. How are you all doing? Thank you for having me.
Very good. Commissioners, obviously, we're off to a strong start for 2025. Revenues at 3.8 million, up slightly from last year due to the colder weather. Expenses are slightly lower in 2025 versus 2024, month over month, so that's good. All in all, we're right about 625,000. Last year we were at about a profit of 625,000. This year we're at 1.1 million. Don't worry, as our financials tend to go, the utility makes profit in the heating months, and then in the summertime has operating losses. So this will be all balanced out throughout the cycles of our weather. Total change in net position stands at $1.2 million compared to 714,000. On balance, it's about the same type of month as we had last year, but just slightly colder weather. So that explains the difference. So Russ, is there anything else you'd like to add on our financial performance for the
No, it's a good, strong start to the year, as you said. I have no additional comments to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
I will just also mention this is audit season, and so our auditors will be on site next week to perform the review of the 2024 financial year closeout in time so that the city can submit their audit without any issues, and we're very happy that we haven't caused the city to delay their audit filing at all for at least 2 years now. So things are working well on that front. And then also relating to the financials, the Public Facilities Authority just approved the Hibbing Public Utilities to direct issue debt directly from the public utilities so that we don't have to encumber the whole GO obligation on the face value of the note. So that should make Mayor Hyduk happy and everybody at the City Council that the City Council's now GO pledge will be limited on any debt just to the debt service reserve account, which is just 12 months of principal and interest. So that's a great savings for the Hibbing taxpayers. So just congratulations, Commission, because it shows the trust that the state PFA has put in our financial performance and our ability to manage our obligations under our statute and under our financials. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Support. Support. Motion by Commissioner Sandsted, support by Commissioner Babbage to approve the January 2025 interim financials. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6B, authorize MMUA policy and governance consulting services for 2025 in the amount not to exceed $24,750. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, I think we all wanted to extend a thank you to Carlene Koss from MMUA. Carlene, are you with us still? I hear you're balancing cocktail parties out in Washington, D.C. right now. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I have a little bit of an unstable connection, so I hope it lasts, but no cocktail parties so far. Well, that's a lie. One cocktail party, but not plural parties.
Well, we won't ask too many questions about that. But Carlene is at the the American Public Power Association annual conference in Washington DC, where they're meeting with legislators at this important time around issues related to tax exempt financing and all these things that are changing or at risk of changing in our world right now. So Carlene, thank you for being out there. And just also thank you for being at our work session just 2 weeks ago. Carlene came and talked about the role that MUA can provide in providing some policy and governance consulting. As you know, the commission has done a lot of work with the utility, and I think at some point we haven't always kept the eye on the ball for the internal policies and processes as closely. So I think we really look forward to having MMUA involved in kind of helping us get to a spot that's much more kind of up to date, including a structural review of employee policies and processes, as well as development of a policy handbook and governance and operating manual. So that's what I'd like to recommend for the commission's approval.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll support, but I have a question.
Okay, one second. We got a motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Sandsted to approve item 6B. Any further discussion? Commissioner Sandsted?
Thank you. So I just want to say I'm very much in support of this and in favor of this. It's been a long time since we've done a comprehensive look at our policies. I think this is a great place to invest a few dollars and get things rolling. On the letter in our packet, it says review employee policies and processes. Will this also include administrative processes, or how that will interact?
I think it would be a great question for Carlene. Carlene, did you hear Commissioner Sandsted's question?
Yes, I did. I think it really, we are willing to go wherever the process takes us. The only thing that would stop us would be either, Hibbing Public Utilities saying, we don't want you to get into that. We don't spend the amount of time that it would take to get into that. But for us to do a good job, we have to look at what's working, and maybe where there are bumps in the road, and those could come from a lot of different places. So that's why we've structured our proposal along the lines of, starting with an independent review of the situation that occurred at the end of last year that sort of raised everyone's attention to some things that aren't working. And then from there, look at both, the structural things as far as policies, procedures, how the humans understand them and are interacting together, and then sort of helping you build what you need, both in terms of the actual procedures, but also, what's published, as well as how do the humans actually implement them, and how do we get everyone on the same page in terms of understanding all of that, so that everyone has the, similar expectations and knows things should go. Is what we're thinking would be the full scope of the engagement, providing that's what you want, and give us the access to do.
Thank you. Yeah, I am very supportive of this. I just want to be clear that I don't want this limited to employees only. This is everybody working together.
Exempt and non-exempt, correct?
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion?
Can I ask a question? So how does this work? Will there be a committee working with the MMUA discussing this? And if so, who is going to be on that committee, and will there be at least one commissioner on that committee?
Excellent question. Carlene, could you answer that as well?
Sure. So after speaking with all of you at your working session a couple of weeks ago, and then spending some time with Luke, just sort of looking through how things have and haven't gone, what I would anticipate would be the process is, first we would come in and do the independent review of the circumstance from the end of the year, almost as a test case, of what works, what doesn't, where the holes are. So that would be pretty much MMUA driven, but with access to everybody who would need to be talked with to get a good picture of that. The employees, the, relevant commissioners, if there's union people, whoever all had, let's just say, a feeling about all of that, we'd want to talk to them and look at the records and then create a report for you. The next piece of that, as Luke and I discussed it, would be a session with the staff in terms of understanding together what works and doesn't work internally, both from a procedural standpoint and just expectations of one another about how departments should be interacting, about how communication should work, and not in in a, what was the word, a woo-woo way, touchy-feely kind of a way, but just in a very practical kind of a way. How does that go? And then take that to a session with your willingness, commissioners, and doing something similar with all of you from your point of view as to what's working and what isn't. From there, we would create a set of recommendations around what needs to be fixed, who should be involved in fixing it, what that process might look like, and get your buy-in on that. And then we would proceed from there with whatever structure, if that's a blue ribbon panel, if that's a process where staff does X and commission does Y. I think for me to say right now, here's how it ought to go, without engaging all of you and understanding how you want to work together and what does and doesn't work, would be premature. I think it's always a mistake to come in with a solution before you fully understand the people and the needs from their point of view.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm good.
No, I think this is just kind of a very great opportunity to work with MMUA, and I think, very much looking forward to beginning this process with Carlene and everybody here at the utility to really establish a good governance framework for the future.
I do have one more question. As we go through this, I know I've asked you, I reached out to Carlene, we were playing phone tag back and forth. I think it would be very helpful to the commission to get sample org structures from other municipal utilities. So Carlene, if you can hear me, if that's what I was trying to reach you for, if you could send those to us or to Luke, and Luke, you could get that to us, just so we can see what other municipal utilities across the state have in place for an org structure, because I think part of all of what we're dealing with in policies and implementation is also related to org structure. So I think that would be timely and helpful.
Commissioner, I got your, because it was voicemail, and tried to respond to you. I'm sorry we weren't able to connect. That is something we're gathering from some of the other utilities. Until recently, I think for historical reasons, a lot of utilities didn't really want to give that information up, but now that MMUA is kicking off a whole new set of services, I do have verbal consent from a number of them to provide their organizational charts without names, but with structure and position titles on them. So certainly before this process is too far along, I should have those resources, but I don't have them to send you right now.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Not, we already had a motion and support. Yes. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, item 6C, authorized public bid 2025-02, the 2025 vegetation management. Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. If you recall, HPU has had great success by managing its vegetation to reduce its power outages throughout the city, and we've gone through 4 years of a cycle of doing high voltage, starting at 23 kV and then going down through the 13.8 and then going through smaller sections of the city on smaller voltages. We have essentially completed everything, and so what we're going forward with in this bid is to get pricing on what we would call the cleanup of that project, just because we have over 50 miles of line without the city. You know, there's opportunities to kind of keep improving it every year. Keeping up on vegetation is really important. So we had put in 500,000 in that capital budget we shared with the commission in there, and so we'd like to go out and get pricing for the areas indicated. So.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
A motion by Commissioner Stokes. I guess before we go any further, I've always had an issue with the way these are bid out because they don't clear around the phone lines. Will you amend your motion to make sure that the request for public bid includes that?
Absolutely. I was going to bring that up in discussion
Okay.
anyway, so thank you. There's two things I'm going to bring up.
Okay.
so.
All right, so phone lines.
Yep.
Okay.
Like the phones and cable lines, because like before we had them laying down other lines while
Okay.
they were clearing, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It should be like the low voltage lines. It should be 2 feet around the line, period.
Whether
no
we
matter
own-
what line is on that pole. So it's simple as that, really.
Okay.
Was there something else?
I'll bring it up during discussion.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
When you're ready for discussion.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve the vegetation management. Any further discussion?
Chair Hart.
Mr. Stokes.
Mr. Peterson, when do we expect to have this majority of this all done? And is there a point that we're going to have our own people maintain it from there on? I realize that it got overgrown really heavy and we were way behind, but
Yeah.
is there a point where we can be able to maintain this with our own people instead of spending this money annually?
There is. I think it's just a question of the crew size that HPU wants to maintain permanently on staff to do this. I think there has been some talk of like having a construction crew or not a construction crew. It is typical to go out for these big vegetation pushes in a cycle, and maintain a smaller crew size is kind of typically what has been maintained. So at some point, if we wanted to do all of our veg clearing in-house, we would want to just determine the right crew size and how we would do that. The experience of HPU up until recently has been vegetation was neglected for so many years. And whether it was because of crew size or not wanting to spend the money, that ended up causing a lot of power outages at very visible times. And, I guess we want to make sure that whatever we do, we don't get in a situation like that. So that's something I think we could definitely talk about, and whatever, it is up to the commission how we want to do that. When we talk about org structure, org size, what's the right amount of tree clearing crew we should have, or if it's a construction crew that can be doing things underground. If you recall, we did add one additional lineman recently to that, and that's allowing us to do a feeder project this year in-house. And there's quite a bit of savings by having a crew big enough to support that construction work, while also having the service trucks go around and take care of whether it be streetlights or customer issues or things like that. So being able to split and manage the resources we have, and then dealing with a power outage when you've got to bring all forces on deck, is just part of what goes on in management of the line crew. So very happy to kind of have those conversations about how do we staff right for the future. We have some talented tree guys on our line crew. We have some guys on our line crew who would rather not cut trees. So I think everyone has a specialty, and I think that's just with any crew. And what we want to make sure, though, in my recommendation to the commission, is that we're just making sure our priorities are covered, and we'll get some information this year about how much it costs for this cleanup work, and then maybe that would be a good background for the commission to have a conversation of, if we could do this in-house, how much extra would it cost?
Mr. Chairman, so that was my other part of it. Can we get a report, a plan, and a structure on that, and what it's going to cost us, and so we know in detail how that's going to work and what it's going to cost us in-house?
Yes, would you like that? This is to have a crew big enough to handle
Right, but
our own.
Working forward from here,
Yep, okay.
if we get to plan, you know, so we know exactly what it's gonna entail, if we have to hire 1, 2, 3, 4 people, I don't know what it's gonna be, so it would be nice to know that
Okay.
in advance before we get to the point where it gets overgrown again.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item will be item 6D, authorized public bid 2025-03, purchase or request for quote for transmission transformer. Mr. Peterson.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioner Hart. I'm sorry. Yeah, if you recall, for the Ansley and the First Avenue substations and the Beltline substation, we went out for quotes for public bids for the transformers over a year and a half ago, and that was because of the long lead time on equipment. And for the Southern Interconnect project, this is the request to go out for public bid for critical components that are long lead time. And as I mentioned in the updates, one of the issues on the federal level is how are tariffs affecting the supply chain for electrical components that have sometimes cross-border implications. So even though we're still far away from spending dollars on this project right now, it is appropriate that we go for public bid for the transformers and the circuit breakers, which are the next two items.
Make a motion to approve.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve public bid 2025-03 for the transmission transformer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item, 6E, authorized public bid 2025-04 for the high voltage circuit breaker for the project. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. This is very similar to the transformers request for bid that we just went out for. So 25-04 is for the high voltage circuit breaker, which also has a long lead time.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Sandsted to authorize public bid 2025-04 high voltage circuit breaker. Any further discussion?
Just one quick question. I just want to make sure, this was in the budget, right? For these?
That's right. We've talked about it with the capital budget. We haven't formally acted on the 2025 capital budget yet. We talked about it in December, but that's something we'll be bringing forward for action in there.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, 6F, first item related to the primary wire distribution work is approved Lake Straits Construction LLC for the Ansley substation overhead work in the amount of $118,000. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you are two change orders for the overhead work leading into the Ansley and the First Avenue substations. If you recall, the commission is building these new substations, and we're making great progress on getting these substations built, and this is to upgrade the poles and some of the conductors coming into the substation around the area to make it more in line with what we feel is best for the project. So part of this was not necessarily, it was not in the bid scope awarded to Lake States originally. So this is extra, it was work that we knew we needed to do. And now that the construction of the project is where it is, this is what we're recommending moving forward with.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Make a motion to approve.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve Lake State's construction amount of $118,000 for the Ansley substation overhead work. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be to approve Lake State construction for the First Avenue substation overhead work in the amount of $89,000. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Commissioners. As I mentioned before, this is to do the power pole work around the substation, and the existing distribution there is, from the 1970s and before. It's certainly lived its useful life, and we look forward to having these conductors and poles redone before the substation is placed in service. And overall, the project is still, I should mention too, overall, the project is still on budget as we expected. And so these are, while they are extra scopes, we're doing a little bit of extra work on the project. We are still maintaining the original budget that was set for the substation.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Sandsted to approve Lake State Construction, the amount of $89,000 for the First Avenue substation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, 6G, approve Nova Spec 5-year support plan in the 2025 service agreement. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you is the recommendation to approve the 5-year support plan for Nova Spec and the 2025 service agreement. As I mentioned in my cover letter, we are stuck with Nova Spec, and to be part of stuck with Nova Spec, the only way you get a good deal is if you negotiate a long-term contract. And so the 5-year support agreement that we have with them is the best available contract we could get with them. And then when I say we're stuck with them, also we really appreciate the value of their work. They do good work, and that's why we continued with them for our water treatment plant upgrades over at off of Town Line Road. And so part of that is making sure that we have the right long-term support model to make sure we get the right support, which we currently have been doing on a year-to-year basis. If you recall, it was about December of 2023 when I brought back the 2024 service plan. This one is just a 5-year agreement, which according to our authorization and approval matrix contracts over 5 years, and the budgetary amount of this contract requires that it goes forward for the commission for approval. So with that, I recommend the 5-year support contract as well, and the prices are listed in the appendix in the packet, as well as the 2025 service plan. And unlike past years where there was always a pre-buy of service hours per calendar year, Nova Spec is going away from that model, and in order to get the best rates from their consulting services, we targeted projects that were in the capital budget for 2025 and assigned hours to those, and they gave us this time and materials rate. So as a time and materials contract, it isn't an obligation to spend that amount, but it is a quote-unquote budget to spend that amount for the projects that we are looking at working on with Nova Spec throughout 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So, page 166, it says the payment schedule, time and expense dash monthly, and then the invoice amount says 187,000. I'm not.
Yeah, that's a misappropriation of their standard terms. Like they typically will do a scope of work for like one project, and they'll kind of lay out all this. What they have right here is we have budgeted amounts, but this is it's all time and materials. So we will not get billed an invoice one amount for $187,000.
So this is not the invoice.
That's not the invoice.
This is
That's
like
right.
a sample?
That's right. We are, Ben, are you on the phone? They're not, okay, all right, I asked them to attend. So my interpretation of this, and I can confirm with Nova Spec, we would never pay just an invoice up front for consulting all year long. So if you look at the invoices, time and materials, so every month they'll send us an invoice for the work that they do, and it would never exceed $187,000 for the year.
Okay.
So I will not approve an invoice for $187,000.
Mr. Chair, thank you. In this proposal, it also says it expired December 30th of 2024.
I understand that their contract and proposal is not up to speed with where they are, but it is still valid. It is. Yes.
Is this proposal, though, still?
Still valid? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I talked to Ben today about it and mentioned that this is going before the commission today, and he was gonna try to hop on if he could too, so, yes, it
Okay.
is.
A couple more questions on this proposal. With the, maybe just easier to go to page 166, the engineering and support, I see different areas of, you know, where they can jump in and help, but engineering support, T&E.
I'm sorry,
Page 166 of 182,
okay.
Number 4 in that.
it's item 7.2,
Okay.
it's towards the back of the packet.
7.2 in option 4, or number 4, project 4, I think she's talking.
Okay, engineering support, T&E.
Engineering support T&E, yes. So with these services in this category, what can Novaspec do to help us in our current situation of merging a department, not having it fully staffed, trying to cross-train? Are they able to cross-train? What can they do?
That's an excellent question, Commissioner. The work that we are talking about here in the support plan here, these are just generic, these are kind of budgeted amounts for project work. But of course, every time they develop something, it's with our staff, and so there's always that ongoing training. There's additional training that Novaspec provides as well as part of the agreement that was earlier on in the packet on this section for the project support, and that on-call 24-hour support service is provided under that agreement, not the 2025 service agreement. But when we need somebody up here to deploy and do something, this is where that would fall under. But we budgeted certain projects as well as allowed some flex because just ask the team, there's things that you can't always know what you're going to run into during the year, but we can start with a couple of allowances for boiler tuning, for just kind of watching how we're managing the system right now and making sure that we're using it and all the potential that is there as best as possible, and then automating some of the work and improving our controls on some turbines.
So is it your intention to use Novaspec at all to help in cross-training employees?
Absolutely.
So if the answer is yes, that's not that piece of it, the actual training part isn't in here. That would be, am I understanding you correct, that would be in addition?
I would see that as part of the engineering support T&E.
Can you get that in writing from them, like built into here, so?
Certainly, yeah.
So
And-
we know what we're paying for?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry. So now I got another question. I'm still a little confused on how much we're approving right now. Is page 161 of 182, where it says year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5?
Yep.
Is that like a dollar amount for their services that we're paying?
So, thank you, Commissioner. There's two items in here. One is the support plan, which is in the amount of, it's a 5-year agreement. Year 1 would be $64,000. Year 2 would be $56,000. You know, so on page, it's 5 of 20 of 161, it's, the annual amounts is listed.
So those are actually specific dollar amounts. And
That's right.
then we go to the engineering support.
Yes.
Where we're paying fees.
Correct. We
Okay.
would pay the time and materials, and I should have made that more clear in the packet. Time and materials not to exceed $187,000.
Okay,
And that's my fault.
okay. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Chair, unfortunately, I have one too. I'm just curious if you can enlighten me on what that extended support for V14 1-year support is. and whether we may need that for following years. That's not included in here. I don't know what that is.
Can I phone a friend?
Yeah,
Can-
I don't care who gives
Is
it.
that your last option?
I'm just curious.
I
Yeah.
think it's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I was gonna ask that.
So, sorry, I'm sorry, which page are we on?
161.
Right there.
161?
Yeah, in
Okay.
the part that Commissioner Babbage was just talking about in the
Okay.
selected services investments, year one, it just shows that we have extended support. I don't know if that's version 14, if that's what that stands for, I don't know. V14, 1 year extended support for 8,728, but there's nothing in those next 4 years. I don't know what that is or if we're gonna need that.
Yes, phone a friend.
Phone a friend?
Yeah.
So James, what they do is that when there's an upgrade to a version to the whole system, we usually, the utility waits for a year before we actually implement it. And then we wait for the next version to come out and wait for another year. So that's why they're not required in the future. There's no way to predict what they're gonna be in the future.
So there could be similar costs that come in year 3 or 4 if there's a version upgrade.
Usually by the 4th year.
Okay, but that'll just, I'm
And that
assuming
usually
we're kind of stuck to pay that anyways, so,
Yep,
right?
and because it's a sole supplier, and that usually comes with server upgrades.
Okay,
So
okay. So there's potentially changes to that in the future if that were to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Good.
All right. I don't think we had a motion on this yet.
I don't think so. I think
Oh,
Commissioner
we
Babbage
had a
started with
discussion.
questions, yeah.
make a motion to approve.
Support.
You support it?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Stokes. Support by Commissioner Babbage to approve the 5-year support plan with no respect. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, move on to policy and governance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, did I miss something?
H.
That was pulled.
That was
I'm on the wrong.
removed,
That
yeah.
was
Oh, it
pulled.
was, oh,
No, we
sorry.
pulled that.
That was pulled.
Oh, I have it at 5H, I'm sorry.
No problem. Item 7B, did you pull that, Mr. Peterson, or not?
I did not.
Okay.
7A, are we gonna go to 7A first?
You pulled 7.
783.
783.
783.
783.
Oh, okay.
7A.II.
So, first item will be to appoint Terry Garrity to electrical maintenance and instrument crew leader position.
That's correct. Yep, that's 7A1. And so Commissioners, following up with the decision in December to move forward with combination crews and authorize the postings of the internal jobs that were approved at that commission meeting, HPU posted those positions internally. And as required under the labor contract, we have to bring those job postings for at the next commission meeting. And so this is the next commission meeting following the posting of those jobs. And so with that, we're happy to make recommendations for the most senior qualified for those job positions there. So 7A1 is to approve Terry Garrity to the crew leader position. 7I2 is to appoint Warren Campen and Brett Isaacs to the electrical and instrumentation technician positions that are journeyman positions that were in the job posting that was there. And 7I3, which I had pulled, was to appoint the most senior qualified person for an apprentice position, but we do not meet the crew size thresholds in the contract to have an active apprenticeship, nor is that apprenticeship fully available, nor were the apprentice jobs posted. So because of that, I'm recommending moving forward with the fulfilling the 3 vacancies that were part of the approved 5 in December, and that is my first recommendation.
Thank you. What will be wish of the commission?
I want to take these as 2 separate motions, or?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve 7AI.
I'll support that. Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Chair Hart to approve item 7AI. Any further discussion?
I have a question. In the process, this is a process question. Internal applicants applied first. Did we have more than one? For this position, for the
Yes, we did.
lead?
Lead,
Mhm.
crew leader.
And were all of the people that applied spoken with
They were all spoken with eventually.
prior to a determination?
Prior to the
made?
termination, no.
Okay. And is this at your discretion, or is there a qualifying process that an employee goes through?
Yeah, the union contracts are pretty clear. It's the most senior qualified position.
Okay.
And person, and internally, for internal positions, because of the close working relationship, most internal positions we haven't done interviews for. It's pretty apparent based on seniority and then also the qualifications where people fit. And so that's what we proceeded with this one as well. So we did not do a formal interview process for the crew leader.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be the 7A, number 2. What would be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve Warren Campen and Brent Isaacs to electrical maintenance and instrumentation technician journeyman positions. Any further discussion? Commissioner Sandpit?
Same question, process. Internal applicants, 2 applied, or were there more?
So these were technician positions, which we, in order to be a journeyman, you have to require the state journeyman licensing for electrical worker. And we had, for the journeyman position, these gentlemen were the only 2 journeymen who applied to the job. We did not interview them, no. So we looked at their licensing, meeting the qualifications, and they are the most senior qualified journeyman internally. That's how the recommendation was made.
So I have a question also on and I'm sorry to wordsmith this, but
Yeah.
journeyman, when I see the word journeyman on this recommendation, but my recollection is in our December 17th meeting, and we merged the departments and we did not identify them as journeymen, is that correct? In that, they were called technicians.
They
There
were,
was
right, they were,
a lead and then 4 technicians, I believe.
that's correct. And the technician job description is for a full-fledged journeyman, which requires a journeyman's license with the state. These are apprenticeable jobs, but we did not approve an apprentice job description for posting. We don't have the apprenticeship program ready yet. We do have qualified internal candidates for the apprenticeship position, but we don't have the apprenticeship available to offer currently. So of the 4 positions that were for the technician position that was filled, without the ability to have an apprenticeship program and an apprentice job description posted, we are moving forward with the recommendation for the 2 journeymen that we currently have as senior internal employees.
Okay, is there a way when, I'm just gonna ask, for me, we have to have consistency in what we're calling a position, and then if we're posting for positions, for that same kind of thing, that they're labeled the same way, because I find this very confusing. And maybe the longer I'm here and I understand the different positions, but this gets confusing, and then when I look at the contract, then it gets wonky to me. It's hard to understand what we're doing.
Any other discussion?
Can I ask real quick too, just because the confusion. Okay, so right now, you know, it states here about the, you know, if your recommendations are approved, HP will not have a crew size to accommodate 2 apprentices. So what do we need then to have 2 apprentices?
So the contract outlines a crew size of 3 to 4, allows 1 apprentice. Currently, with somebody on administrative leave, we only have 2 people in that department, so we're not able to safely take on a training responsibility for that. So that's where that sits. So once we have a crew size of 3, we'll be able to take on 1 apprentice. Once we have a crew size of 4, we're still stuck at 1 apprentice. Once we have a crew size of 5, then we get the 2 apprentices.
So the person that is out on leave, does that mean that one of the other people that we're appointing then become in their position?
So the people that we're appointing today, you know, there is, somebody is on leave. The most senior qualified person in that department would upgrade to that crew leader until the person who was appointed to that crew leader position returns. So, and the reason why we can go forward with the journeyman right now is because they aren't apprentices. They have the full backing of the state of Minnesota electrical license.
Okay.
Mr. Kapsala?
Hi, Chair, Commissioners. What Luke is saying about the apprentices to start off with is wrong. He doesn't want to read the last sentence of that paragraph that reads, "This language, however, does not limit the number of apprentices on any crew." That's the last sentence in that paragraph. He's stopping at a certain moment. I'd also like to address the journeyman aspect. If you look at your job description that you guys approved, it does have in all 3 requirements, it says the ability to obtain. It also shows years of service in the power plant of 5 years minimum. So these guys that I have posted for these positions do qualify for these jobs as technicians because they have the ability to obtain. The public utilities right now does not have the ability to let these guys obtain those licenses because there's no master electrician. There's no superintendent that has a PE or anything that you've been looking for a long time, over 6 months. I got involved in this project back in October 28th of last year when it was the first communication with emails on how this process was going to be very transparent. No harm, no foul to anybody. If I could ask the commission to do it the right way. The right way is to grandfather these 4 guys in because you need their experience. You need their knowledge in this department. Put them together. They have been working together successfully for many years here. The projects have gotten bigger without the proper support in these projects. They have been working together. And we need their knowledge to continue to improve this program. So in a lot of the people's eyes that we've talked to, the main objective here is to get a hybrid, which a lot of places have done, a hybrid for both. But they're still specialized one way or the other toward instrumentation or towards electrician. If you want a true hybrid I&E guy, you're taking 2 jobs that have a 4-year apprenticeship currently, and you're going to try to cram it into one. It's not going to work. Your true first hybrid would be the next person that comes into that apprentice program, that learns from these guys that have 15 plus years of knowledge and spent lots of money on their training to do this job that they're doing right now. So I would urge that we grandfather these 4 in and start this kind of process. It doesn't matter what the name is on the top of it. We have the journeyman's license. To obtain master license, we need a master electrician or we need a PE. They've been asking for this for a long time. You had one a few years ago. And that could have got this done. We could be moving forward. But that's my stance, and the union asked for it because there is a huge safety concern on the aspect of the controls downstream. Yes, I believe that a high voltage guy can wire in a controller in low voltage. And he can wire in a controller, but does he understand the process? Right now we have 3 guys doing the jobs that used to be 6, 7 guys. It's just like the whole utility as a whole. Used to, when I started 10 years ago, it was 98 employees. Doing what we're doing now with 60, and that's including management. So we have improved this utilities, working together as management and union over the last 10 years. And I would really like to continue working that way, as it should be. Start with what you already have and expand the department from there. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have some questions for Mr. Kamsla, since he brought these points up. Has there been anybody within the electrical department or instrumentation department able to get their journeyman's or master's license during the last 5 years or 6 years or 7 years?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one concern of mine, that hasn't been done.
Right.
No
And
one's
it
made
also-
that effort. No one's made that effort. Wait, I let you talk, now you let me talk. Number 2, did you read the agenda? We've got a posting coming up here for a PE coming up, which they, once again, will have their opportunity for that, any individual to get that.
Correct.
So there's 2 clarifications. Page 30 in the contract, I take it the opposite way. And I see Mr. Rieger shaking his head back there, but if this would have happened on the line crew, they would have been posting for journeyman left and right because the crew size was too small. So I don't like to get into this, but this is really, I got my name used in an email, which I didn't appreciate because I didn't get tagged in, and I got the no harm, no foul thing that was thrown at me. That was our original letter of understanding with you and the union, which you guys rejected. And that grandfathered all 4 people into this department and left one individual not having to be an electrician. If he didn't want to be, he could go ahead at that time and get his electrical license or testing for the electrical side of that job. But that was turned down by your union. You brought back 3 different proposals, except for this last one. I don't know if you signed it with the 2 years of standby. That was the last letter of understanding that you guys brought forward. So there's been plenty of opportunities. Now, I'm not against putting apprentices in here, believe me, but the process was done wrong because apprenticeship job has to come before the commission, be approved, and then posted. You cannot throw apprentice in a technician's job. The job posting has to be approved first. So that's my only problem with the way it was done. And if this commission and Mr. Peterson brings back postings for apprentices, I'm not against it. I'll be all in favor of approving it. But it wasn't done that way. So we approved it one way, and that's what we're following, is that procedure. I'm not saying there is anybody talented out there that can do this job. My recommendation is, and you guys think about this, anybody who signs up for the job, you test it. We're going to come up with a test from the journeyman's electrician side and the instrumentation side, X amount of questions. You guys score a score of 80 or 85 or higher. I'm all in favor of putting you up into, you guys got to slot that in your joint apprenticeship committee. So he can be slotted wherever he is. Maybe he's one step away from being a journeyman, but you guys always look to be reactive to this stuff. Now, has the functional joint apprenticeship committee met to start discussing the training on this cross-training job, on this crossbred job? Have you guys met? You have? Have you come up with any ideas for schooling?
January, we met for 10 minutes, and then the HR lady dismissed the meeting.
Okay.
With no
I wasn't aware of-
guidelines.
I'll check into that. I wasn't aware of that. Thank
And
you.
if I could ask you, do you have a copy of that first letter of understanding? Because there was never a letter of understanding written up for the union that grandfathered in, because Mr. Peterson from the get-go, and I have a letter back there stating that, very transparent, but there was going to be no grandfathering. So if there is a letter of understanding out there, it's never gone to the union because it's never gone through the commission to be approved. And I've never seen it. And I've been involved in this situation since October 28th, because I excluded myself back in June because I was a candidate for the job. So if there's a letter of understanding that's sitting there, it has not been seen by me, and it has not been approved by the union because I have not seen it.
I'll check with human resources, but I'm gonna tell you,
I've
been involved with this since 1989. So this is a travesty that it's gone this long without being addressed. So it was discussed that 4 people were grandfathered in and everything was to be okay, and then we were gonna post from there.
In this whole process, if there is a legitimate letter of understanding that would have grandfathered 4 people in, we would not be standing at this situation right now.
That's my struggle with this, because
Because
like
it
I
would
said,
have passed
I've been
the
involved
union.
with this since 1989.
This
and
is
that
all
was
these
the
4
original
gentlemen
intent
have asked for.
from the beginning, because I was an apprentice back then, so that's why I asked about
Mr.
it.
Stokes, these 4 guys, that's all they want to do is do their job that they're doing right now, with also the cross-training that we've talked about for numerous years. And it was actually in this contract negotiations, when I believe you were still employed, they talked about cross-training that never got implemented in a contract talk.
It's been talked about, I just said, since 1989.
I understand that, but
So-
that's all these 4 guys do is want to do their jobs. And there's been no talk about grandfathering or just letting them.
Since this second round that I've been involved as a commissioner, there's always been talk about cross-training and training for everyone that's in there. You know that I mentioned this about testing, and not to hold anybody back, but to see where the deficiency is and see where we need to train them, because why are we gonna waste money if the person scored 100% on the instrumentation test? Why would we send him to instrumentation school when he probably needs the electrical background? So we as commissioners and as managers need to know where the deficiencies lie, not for punishment, but so we don't waste money moving forward. That was the whole thing. That the schooling's been offered. I mean, we've talked to people
If
about
I can
schooling.
ask, where is the hangup then? Where is the disconnect here on the training aspect of this? Where is the person to go and offer or say, hey, I want to do this training? Where is the cross-training language? Where is the opportunity right now? The only opportunity is a stack of books this tall for the boiler license, because that's a ladder progression. Where is the commitment from management to push these people to move on? I want to go back to the licensing question. When Mr. Peterson and Stephanie Dickinson came on, there was nobody on the water crew that had appropriate license. They got the training. They pushed them that direction. Where is that for the rest of the utilities? Where was the conversation to go over to Jacob Frederick and say, hey, we should really start pushing you towards getting a power limited technician? Where is the licensing to push Warren Camp and, hey, you should really look into your master license? Or to come back with a comment is that you had a choice to take this job, but you didn't. Where is that choice? Is that put on the union for more work to turn around and put it in this contract for more work for us to do? Every single one of us here have a minimum of 20 years left in this utility, and we want the training, we want to cross-train, we want to learn more, but our hands are tied. Ever since the downside of the biomass and then now the reactivating, we have 18 jobs listed as vacant. We've lost 38
Outside the
employees.
scope of this conversation, but let me ask you this, is there licensings listed in the contract?
Yes,
So is it up to management to force people to take the license?
It's up to
Or
man-
should the union people take it upon themselves to get the license if they so choose, or
it's
if
up to
it's a job?
management to enforce what they have in their job descriptions.
Licensing is paid outside the regular job description, that's an extra pay, that's not pay
The
included.
pay is, yes,
So that
but the
means
jobs
to me,
require
that
a
means to me
license.
that the licensing is something extra, that the employees, if they were aggressive employees and wanted to do that,
That's an
they
incentive
would
pay
get
for
that license.
holding a higher license. That's an incentive pay to have a higher license.
Incentive is a key word right there.
It is.
So why is that the union, or why is that the manager's job to make sure that those people get that license? If I was in that job, which I was, it wasn't acquired at that time, but any other apprenticeship jobs that I was in, any licensure that pertained to my job, I got. I did it because it was a benefit to me and it was a benefit to the utility. There's no way that we should have to go, the commission and or managers have to go and push an employee to get that license. We have an employee that had approximately 7 years to become a master electrician. Wasn't done. What do you want us to do? We can't hold his hand and bring him there. That's up to the individual, and that's a reflection of the individual to me. I'm just saying, if it benefits the utility and it benefits the individual, then do it. I'm all in favor of this. You guys are painting me as a bad guy, and I'm not. I want you guys
to be marketable outside the utility. So if we fail and not make your job safe, or pay is not there, equity is not there, and pay, then you've got a right to go some other place and get a job. In my opinion right now, these are 4 technicians, and if nobody qualifies for them, I think we should go outside and post all 4 for outside. I mean, this is getting drawn out. It's too much drama for me. I can't handle it. I've been involved with this for a long, long time, and every benefit was made to the union to help everybody out. I can guarantee you that. So if we have to dig, I'll have to dig, because I
would really like to see that letter of understanding.
So that was.
And one more thing, not to drag this out anymore. You have 3 identities in this utilities. You have the commission, you have management, and you have the union. This subject is a huge subject, because you hear my side of the story, you hear Luke Peterson's side of the story, okay? But you don't hear the actual story that took place that day. In over 10, 15, 20 meetings, individual meetings, group meetings, you don't hear what the whole conversation is, the safety concerns, everything else. I can sit here and I can plead with you and tell you, because I've been in those meetings and being truthful.
So I'm gonna say this. I worked it for 35 years, and I know, and if you look again, if you would have paid attention, 7E, commissioners on committees now, we're gonna try to do something
I
again
understand.
to move forward. So you can't, here's the deal. 4 years coming up in a couple days here, you've been here, correct? We didn't have a manager here. You're looking at 3 commissioners who ran this utility completely with no managers.
And no issues.
Well,
My job's done.
You didn't see the issues. We didn't have insurance. Do you realize that?
No, I understand.
We were in a tough situation. So, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. And yes, we're having a lot of bumps along the road here, but it's gonna work out, and it's gonna be good. And believe me, I've been behind you and supporting you people the whole way. And you know that, Rich.
You know, if you come to me with a letter of understanding that got shot down by the union members that I never presented, I'll shut up right now. But it never did. I have 2 letters of understanding that I wrote, that I put together after sitting and talking with these 4 individuals. 2 of them. One is a common sense one. The other one had and addressed their concerns on safety on the low voltage and high voltage side. I put that together.
Okay, we're gonna have one more comment. Commissioner Sandsted?
I'm only going to say, I've been having this conversation about a merged department since August. And the whole time, and I'm going to say this to Mr. Peterson, the whole time I understood these people would be grandfathered in. And then any hires after that would become the hybrid hires, which is why at the December 17th meeting, when everything went some other way, and I was asking you specifically what changed in 24 hours, and you had no answer for me. This is ringing very familiar. So I didn't know of a letter, an MOU that was shot down. And
This was years prior to.
okay, well,
Before your time.
before my time, but I'm only dealing with the knowledge I had in this year and in this current, we've merged this department.
That's right.
And I think I'm good with merging the department. I think there is an efficiency, and I support what Commissioner Stokes said about having a licensure or a certificate that is transferable anywhere you go. I think there's value in that, and I support that concept for sure. But we have, in my opinion, put the cart before the horse. We have created a vision of what we want something to look like, but we have not put the skeletal framework in for what needs to happen. And I think we needed the cross-training piece spelt out so everybody knows what's expected and how it would work. I also think we need that superintendent position, or now, maybe there's a conversation about a PE over the superintendent position, just so there's the appropriate person to be able to sign off on training and licensure type of things for any of the apprentices. And we don't have that yet. So I feel like we're going about this the wrong way. I feel like we are cart before the horse. And I would like to put a pause on all of this until we can have some real transparent conversation. And maybe this is a labor management issue, I'm not sure. I mean, some of this is contractual, some of this is maybe not contractual because of the changes we've made as a commission, but it needs to get ironed out. And it isn't gonna get ironed out the way we've been going at it, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I just got one more question. If in fact one individual did not withdraw his name from here, the 4 people would have been in this department. So I don't understand the argument. I don't even understand why we're here for the conversation. Because we would have put all 4 people in the department as we agreed to. So I guess I have a hard time understanding that. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
If you allow me to, I can answer that. So,
Go ahead.
thank you.
You got 2 minutes.
Chairman, Commissioners, the reason why I did not put my name in the hat for this, it isn't because I don't want to be an instrumentation technician. That's what I want to be. The reason why I didn't do it is because I don't want to be an electrician. When I started this in instrumentation, I signed up for instrumentation, not electrician. And by signing that, it's forcing me to do something I do not want to do, and that's work with high voltage. So therefore, I did not sign up. And that is the sole reason why I did not sign up. And the other part is because there was absolutely, from Luke, he said, there is going to be no grandfathering in. So, and now apparently, the way the posting was, I don't even qualify if I have to have my journeyman state electrical license. I don't even qualify for that position. But what was posted was ability to obtain. So I just wanted to give you why I did not sign up for that is because I do not want to be an electrician. I want to be an instrumentation technician. I want to stay doing what I do. I enjoy it. Everybody's replaceable, but it's going to be hard to find somebody to cross-train when there's nobody there to train. So, does anybody have any questions for me?
It's more of a statement than a question. And I want you to know I have heard what you've said. I also want to encourage you, like any other employee, that we are in changing times. And, we are trying, I am trying, and I believe wholeheartedly the commission is trying to go about this in a very thoughtful way. And when there's change, there are going to be bumps along the way. I think we are trying to work with you as a union, as our employees. I would hope that there is a return willingness, and I hear you say you just want to do instrumentation. If the job has to change or is going to change eventually, that there will be an expectation of some type of cross-training, I would hope that there would be a willingness to go at least into what you can on that, to train how you can. Maybe this is the conversation we need to have about how far does it go? Or, what if there's somebody who does not want to work with high voltage? Are there other options? I don't know if there's wiggle room, if there's something we can do, but I would just ask, please understand that I don't think anybody's going about this to cut people out of their job, but I do think that like many of our jobs change along the way, and we do have to work for that. I know in the teaching world, what I have to do now versus what I had to do 30 years ago is not everything I wanted to do. And I'm not downplaying, I've heard what you've said. I'm just saying there has to be a way that we are able to work together on this.
I agree 100%. These two departments have been working together for the last 4.5 years very, very, very well, with relying on strengths on both sides. Again, I'm not opposed to, you know, working my way up to 110 or 220, but I don't want to play with 480 and above. You know, I say play, I don't want to work with that. I have to work inside cabinets that have 480 in them, and I'm very conscious of where my tools are and where my fingers are. Again, that's not what I signed up for, and that's the reason why I did not sign for this, is because I understand jobs will change, but again, there's absolutely no conversation about grandfathering in. And that's why I didn't sign up, because I'm going to be expected to do something that I don't feel comfortable doing. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make one more statement. I use the term grandfathering, but it's a term that I don't like to use, and I don't want to use when it comes to this, because I don't think it's right. But it was offered for the 4 people to be in the new position and then hire from there. That was offered to the union.
So, that actually confuses me, and I'm not saying that you're incorrect, but the first thing I ever heard about this was that all the positions were gonna be eliminated and everybody's gonna have to reapply. That was position 1 that I got from this whole thing.
That's clinical.
I understand.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that's a terrible strategy, I just don't like it, so
Right.
it's okay, but I don't recall us ever offering what you just said. I don't recall that. I'm not saying we didn't, but I don't remember it. Because after I had the conversation with you about it, I came to your office an hour before that meeting.
Right.
And said, I don't want to do this, I don't think it's right. We had Stephanie there, we discussed this, Jacob stopped in there and we talked to him a little bit.
Right.
And we changed modes, we slowed down.
We slowed down, and there was a conversation for us to go back to see if I can appoint people into these jobs right away so that we wouldn't have to eliminate jobs. And both of us heard from our contract experts, the answer is no. So we had to go through this process. And, you know, I know this has been a long time coming, and I would just encourage us all, if it was easy, it would have been done already. And so we are going through some stuff, right? And this is very important, and nobody's expecting this to be a bed and roses, and I hear you 100%, Commissioner Sandstead, about the bumps along the way. I think there's things that we can do, I can do personally along the way that make it better or not. But I do want to, I respect Rich a ton. Thank you for everything you do for the members and employees. But when we talk about the 3 entities here, there's, in my view, there's one that we all have to keep focus on, and that's our customers. That's why we're here. We all serve our customers. And that should be our number 1 priority when we're going through all of these things, serving our customers and our community. And I think we are all growing, developing, changing, flexing, and the amount of success that we've all gotten performed together over the last 4 years is phenomenal. If you look at the, you know, balanced budget, moving forward, $50 million invested in our projects and capital infrastructure over the place. That amount of progress is just awe-inspiring. If people from the outside saw how much work all of everybody at the utility has done, and most of them members of Local 49. So, 94, sorry Mark, my dyslexia coming up. It is a very, very key thing. And, you know, also, when the commission approved these job postings, I'm obligated to bring them back with their recommendations under the contract. I mean, I have to bring them back at the next meeting. So, you know, my recommendation is my recommendation. And, you know, ultimate decision is up to the commission.
I want one more clarifying question. From the action we took in December, we've merged a department. we've renamed a department. Boots on the ground, what else has changed? With the people, because there was a conversation to eliminate positions and we did not take that action, correct? Because we had said they wouldn't have a job the next day if we did that effectively. So we did not eliminate positions, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so
But
the employees are still working
yes,
and they are still in what had been their former role, former title position. So
Yes.
effectively, they're still doing the same job today, prior to the December 17th change
that's
in
correct.
merging the department.
Yep. And if I recall correctly, the crew combination concept was approved with the postings that we moved forward with, and each employee was met with shortly after that meeting and just described the process that was going on here and how these positions would become available for posting internally, and if people do not choose a position here, the commission had moved to combine the departments so that, there are certain rights afforded under the union contract for that, and our hope was that everybody would have applied for the new positions. But people have choices, so.
So why the urgency to take this action tonight? Maybe I'm struggling to understand that. Why the urgency to take this action rather than prioritize the framework, the skeletal work, the superintendent, or a PE? And I know we're gonna have that conversation coming up, but why is there an emphasis on this versus the other? And we don't have an explanation, we don't have a process ready to go for what comes next, the cross-training, the hybrid employee. Because I was under the impression we already had 4 people that were going boom right into there. And the next person was gonna be our hybrid person, and we should be ready to go. But we're spending all this time on something and we don't have the other pieces in place.
That's right, Commissioner, and it was my intention that all 4 positions would have been filled too, so that this would be a no-brainer, I think.
So why, do we need to have more conversation on this?
Well, either way, I was obligated to bring the recommendation forward for the commission. Under the rules of the contract, when we post the jobs, I have to bring them forward to the next commission meeting. So the urgency is in part due to contract stipulations on timing of job positions. Also, the commission did send a very clear message about the crew combination, appointing the positions in December, and I think, the commission intended to follow through with that, and that's the results that I executed, and resulting in my recommendation tonight. So it's my job to recommend, commission's job to approve.
Can I ask one question? I know you only wanted one more, like 20 minutes ago.
You're the best, you know that.
So, with Commissioner Sansa kind of saying we kind of put the cart before the horse because we're combining the crews, but we don't actually have any kind of a plan in place to train in hybrid, how we're even gonna cross-train. So right now, realistically, do you mind if I use your name, Jake? Realistically, how long would it be before Jacob would be actually doing electrician work? If he's trained in instrumentation, as soon, if he would have went for one of these positions, and we don't even have any kind of training set up or any idea how we're doing this, what would be the time frame before he would actually be working on as an electrician versus instrumentation?
That's a good question, and because right now he hasn't put in for that position, right now, that's purely hypothetical, and that's kind of where it is. I think the licensing requirements in the state electrical code recognizes a power limited technician registered position, which isn't a full journeyman position as well. And that would be based on hours that are, specified by the state and the ability to pass certain tests. That is certainly something that's very, it's very marketable. There's power limited techs all over the place. That is the happy path for somebody with an instrumentation only background that wants to get into an electrical crew. Unfortunately though, because of, right now, what's right in front of us is the job description that was approved in December and the people that applied for it that were qualified internally, and so that's what I brought forward. But in your case, it's based on hours that qualify for the state test.
But without a master or a PE, would those hours count?
A master or PE would have to sign off on the qualification of those hours for those tests. So I believe we've had past either PEs or masters that have spoken with our employees within the last year saying they'd be willing to vouch for them while they were under their time, so that sitting for the master test was applicable. Also, when we do hire either a PE or a master electrician, at that point, at the time that employee goes for the certification with the state, that the vouching or the affidavit would have to be filed at that time. So provided that the PE is comfortable with the hours, and this is where I believe the state stands, it's up to the PE to determine, or the master electrician, how that person whose license is basically certifying the qualification of those hours stands.
So you don't have to be under the supervision for your hours? You could like just show proficiency to, like I could go show a master electrician that, hey, look what I can do, and then he's like, okay, I'll vouch for you?
Well, I don't want to go too far on a limb. It's a little bit outside of my expertise area, but it would be up to the person who certifies the affidavit about how the affidavit certification process takes place. So whoever's putting his name or her name on the line for those hours is the one who gets to make that call.
So can anybody, this isn't, I'm not digging on you, does anyone in this room know to become a journeyman electrician, do you have to have your hours supervised by a master electrician?
Do we have a master electrician in the room?
That's correct, yes.
So the entire time has to be supervised?
Yes.
So right now, without a master electrician or a PE, we could have somebody doing this for 5 years, but they still,
None of the hours count.
none of the hours count. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
But
go ahead.
we do have people that worked with master electricians and PEs previous to, in utilities, that are willing to sign for a person if they wanted to go, because they did work with them. So they would sign so they could take their journeyman's test. That is available and has been available for a long time. So,
But someone coming in right now, like if we were to hire an apprentice, they would technically be, I mean, they'd be working and getting paid and learning, but we wouldn't have anybody that could say, hey, he worked under us or she worked under us for 5 years.
that's why I'd like to see the approval of the PE, because we've had such a long time. Another discussion for down the line here, but we've had a long road of trying to find the master electrician to fill the superintendent's position. Is that the job posting? So we, in discussion with all this and the training, we decided now to put this on here for a PE. So, and a PE is higher, so they can sign for everything, so. Once again, trying to move forward.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we had a motion and.
I think she had, did you have?
Do we have a motion and a second on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna have a vote.
So I'm sorry for we already approved Terry Garrity, is that right? We've already voted for
We
Terry
already did
Garrity.
that.
Yes.
We're
Okay.
on Brent
All right.
and Jake and
Okay.
Warren.
I'd like to make a different motion, and this is where I'm gonna need your help, Andy.
So there's also already a motion pending, you have a motion to second.
Okay.
That has to be considered first.
Okay?
And then if there's subsequent motions you want to make, then you're free to entertain them, the chair.
So yeah, the motion was to approve Warren Campen and Brent Isaacs to the electrical maintenance and instrumentation journeyman positions. Well, roll call vote, Commissioner Bayless?
I have questions about that first. So I'm curious about the ramifications of approving those two positions. Like, what are we locking ourselves into or out of by approving these two positions? Because I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with it yet.
Which is what my motion was gonna get at.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not ready to vote on it, Chair.
So, good question. Mr. Peterson, correct me if I'm wrong, but this allows while Terry, Warren, and Brent to work in either electrical or instrumentation moving forward from this day.
That's right.
Are there any other questions
Which
regarding?
they're doing already?
Yes.
They're already doing it, so this doesn't do anything different than what they're already doing.
It adds to the scope of the electrician's instrumentation, which they have not currently had, but it's all wires and just a different level of specification. Sorry, did I just put my foot in my mouth?
You just heard testimony from people that came to the podium, said they've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't understand, I don't understand anything after that, so.
Yeah, it is very much they work closely together today.
Will this be a raise in pay for these people?
It will be.
Okay.
So can I have a clarification on that? People who think they have temporary step-up jobs are gonna take a cut in pay, but they are not promised the step-up job that they're in. That's not a guarantee to them because we don't know if the individual from administrative, who's on not administrative leave, but out on extended leave, is gonna come back. Obviously, he's coming back because he signed up for the job, so I'm assuming he's coming back.
Okay, so, well, I don't want the meeting to go on forever, so I'd like to do a roll call vote. I mean, it is what it is. Mr. Bayless?
Opposed.
Okay,
Opposed.
opposed. Chair Hart in favor. Commissioner Sandsted?
Opposed.
Commissioner?
favor.
Okay. Motion failed.
Chair. It's not a dead issue to me. I'd like to have a conversation about this and get to the accomplishment of what we want to do. The only reason I voted I'm opposed is I'm not ready to make a clear decision. I can't vote yes without knowing everything about it, because obviously we don't know everything about it. So it's not a dead issue for me. I'd like to take it up at the next earliest convenience to get to a final plan and implementation. I want it implemented. I don't want to kill it. I just want to do it right, so.
Mr. Chair, I wanted a motion, and oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Our motion was voted down, so the table's open again. Right. Commissioner Santos, did you have a motion at this time? Three to two, it failed.
I needed your advice or your
Yeah, no,
opinion
no,
on
no.
this. What I wanted to do was I wanted to table these issues so we could address them. But in reference to what you were speaking about in December, what we have, I have the December packet, and in your letter, you said, we have a developed detailed plan. We don't have that right now. You said communicate early and often. That has not been happening. Provide training and resources. That is not, we don't have that yet. I am still in favor of putting the department together, but I think these things need to be in place before we get ahead of ourselves with the motions that we're taking tonight. So I don't know how, if we can undo it and just table things until these other pieces are in place.
So, Commissioner Sandsted, based on where you are, it's not like, and I've heard the comments from the commissioners, it's not like this is a dead issue, and it's not like you don't want to revisit this issue. That particular motion died tonight. That doesn't mean it couldn't be resurrected in a different form or at a different time. Mr. Garrity was appointed into a slot. That's all that's happened tonight. Nothing else has happened or changed. So could there be subsequent motions at other times? Sure. And so the only issue that you were potentially trying to look to table was about these two individuals into those spots now. That's all that was voted down. So are there going to be further discussions with regard to this? Clearly it sounds as if there are. So whether I don't necessarily know you have to have a motion to do that. If you want to direct the general manager to get back to you guys on these issues as a directive, that's entirely up to, that's within the commission's purview. As the general manager said earlier, you know, he serves at the will of the commission as to how the commission wants to implement this.
But I would like to ask the general manager to bring forth these other pieces that are necessary before there's any more conversation about any other hirings within this position or within this newly merged department. We we need the rest of the pieces in place. And we need communication with all of the entities, HR, you, management, commission.
Okay, next item, Mr. Peterson, 7B.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, 7B is to post externally for the combined job description. My recommendation was for one external advertising. And now this, to be clear, this is the hybrid position for a qualified external, in this case, journeyman electrical instrumentation technician.
I'd like to make a motion to pull this until we have the framework in place.
Is there support?
Support.
Was that you?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Samstad and support by Commissioner Babbage to table item 7B. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, just because I don't understand the complicit, if you table something though, does that
We
mean,
have to bring it up next week, time we meet.
is there a different way to do it? So that it's not, and, because then we have to address it for sure next meeting.
I said pull it, I didn't say table it. I don't know if there's a difference.
Well, probably is, if your motion is to now strike that off the agenda, it would probably, and not address it at all at this point in time, or take no action on it, then you haven't cornered yourself into Commissioner Babbitt's concern about the
Thanks.
tabling and.
Thanks for the clarification, so.
Yeah, I don't want to, yeah, because I don't want to be like,
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a quick roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless,
In favor?
Commissioner Babbage,
in favor.
Chair Hart, opposed. Commissioner Sandsted,
Support.
Commissioner Stokes.
Opposed.
Motion to pull from the agenda passed. Next item will be item 7C, approve job description and authorize advertising for an electrical engineer. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, ahead of you is the job description for an electrical engineer, PE, who I am requesting that we advertise externally for. As we are all aware, we hired or posted for a mechanical, or I'm sorry, a master electrician back in July, and we have had various attempts at advertising for that. Whether it was good or not, I'll let you be the judge of it. But the long story short is we did not have any qualified master electricians come forward that we're able to recommend into that. So in lieu of that, and the need to make sure that we can sign off on people's hours that are here, I recommend that we post for an electrical engineer position with the PE. That PE would be required, and this would not be a member of Local 94. This would be another exempt position that would be the PE who would be able to sign off. Unlike the master electrician, who has the ability to work with the tools and work with the crews, this would be a purely supervisory role. And so because of this is we believe that this will be more easy to recruit as well, and more flexibility with the salary as well, as because it is an exempt employee. So,
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Stansted to approve posting for electrical engineer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 7D, authorize staff to contact with Baker.
yeah, so I pulled this one, Chair, and if I could just put a brief note on it is, I think we recognize the need to contract with a recruiting agency to do that. I was hoping to have an updated proposal from Baker Tilly for how much that was. It is not cheap. It's about $25,000 a position to hire a recruiter. I don't have any details to recommend before you right now, but I will do that, and if it's in my ability to approve that, I will, if I send it to you guys. If not, I'll bring it up at the next commission meeting. So I just wanted to mention that fulfilling this position is very important, and I think it's important that we would go with an outside recruiter to fill it.
Wait, are we talking about the Baker Tilly or the electrical engineer?
This is a recruitment for the electrical engineer position that we just...
That's my question.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
So for what, I was going to say, what is it exactly that we're contracting with them for? For just the PE position or for other positions that we are going to need?
I expect we're going to have other positions we're going to need. I reached out to the person from Baker Tilly to get a quote on that, and we just haven't been able to connect yet on either. So I want to talk about both one position at a time and then kind of the bulk buy discount. And so when I have all that information, I'll bring it forward to the commission.
Okay.
Meanwhile, we will still do our internal, or we will still advertise on our typical sites for this electrical engineer in the interim and move forward with contacting a recruiting agency.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Peterson?
Could I just add one comment at the
Yep.
end of this, under maybe new business, is just mention, look forward to having you all at the ribbon, or the groundbreaking for the water main project on Friday. That will be with Commissioner Rukavina, and members of the public are also able to attend. It's one of the first times that I can know about that direct appropriation of taconite tax has resulted in a infrastructure project, and we're breaking ground on the mile-long pipe through the swamp in winter. And so because of the innovative way of having the taconite tax go directly to this local infrastructure project, I think it's worth celebrating, and Commissioner Rukavina from the IRRR will be here, as well as other members of our legislative and county delegations. So look forward to having you all there.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Commissioners on committees?
Commissioners
I'm
on
sorry.
committees. I just want to make a motion, I'd like to suggest and then make a motion that commissioners be appointed to committees such as the finance, the apprentice, the healthcare committee. If we don't have a hiring committee, we probably should, and have a commissioner on there. I think it would help immensely with communication.
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder, contract here also should be negotiation team.
Yeah, I am not by any means listing all the committees exhaustively, but what exists, we should have a commissioner as part of that. And if we don't have a hiring committee, I think we should have somebody, a commissioner, involved in that process.
Motion to have
I will
committees
make
appointed.
a motion to have
Yeah,
commissioners on
understand that.
committees.
Support.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any old or new business? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babbitt to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.